Hey there, this is Needs Beardfoot, and today we're making a boar head. Starting with the pattern, printing it out in a size that is fitting for you, cut away the edges, tape it together and cut it out. Next you want to transfer it on leather. I'm using a 6 ounce or 2.5mm wedge tanned leather here. For the teeth you don't need to cut them out in detail now, just cut them out roughly and moisten them completely. Here we're gonna give them some texture on the tusks and on the teeth. I'm using a bone folder to get in this texture, to rough it up a little bit and give it a more natural look. Then you want to transfer the lines of the teeth and use a beveler with a hammer to get in these grooves. A swivel knife is not necessary. Next, using some small blades to cut out the teeth in detail. Bevel the edges on both sides. To make cutting out the nose holes easier, use a hole punch and after that a small thin blade to cut out the holes. Just a little bonus, texturing the nose. For the ears, to give them some easier bending marks, you wanna groove these in or use a bone folder to press them together to make it easier bending them. After that, thin out the blue areas around the eyes to make later on the bending of the leather easier. After that, trace with a wing divider parallel lines along all the edges that will be sewn and punch those sewing holes. None of the leather is really visible from the head, so I just painted black completely. With the fur, I just want to soak the area around the nose and the eyes, since I will later on cut there away a lot of the fur and want to make sure that none of the light skin comes through the fur. But this is optional. Also note that I'm using an old fur that I partly saved here. Next you want to get some contact cement and glue together the tusks and the teeth. I did not cut out the tusks in detail, since now I have to cut away the excess leather anyway. Rebevel and re-dye the edges and use the moisture of the dye to burnish them a bit. For paint I used a color that is almost white and added some brown to give it some dirty look. Then I add a coat of resist. And when this is mostly dry, not completely, I put on antique gel, wipe away all the excess and put on another coat of resist to secure the antique gel. I also put on a coat of resist on the other pieces and burnish the edges. For water hardening I use some hot tap water and put in the skull of the boar in for about 30 minutes and then take it out and let it dry for about 4 hours before I proceed. Make sure that the leather is not too wet anymore, and then put on your contact cement on the flesh side of the fur and the leather and glue both together. Cut away all the excess fur along the wedge tanned leather edge. You want to repunch all the sewing holes with an awl to make sure that the holes are also in the fur. And after that, start sewing all along the edge. Also, you want to sew these small tiny gaps at the back of the head and or at the eye. And then proceed in the shown order. It may look simple here, but is very tedious to find the sewing holes in the fur. To make this a little bit easier, shave away the area of the nose, most of the fur. You can easily cut away down till 1 centimeter. To make it easier to finding the holes in the fur, I recommend using a needle that is blunt or an awl from the inside and guide your needle from the outside along this needle through the hole. After this very tedious sewing part, you can start with a rough shaping of the fur. Use pictures as reference and slowly work yourself towards your goal. You definitely want to cut free the eyes and cut away most of the fur around the nose. It does not need to be perfect yet. To hide the fur leather a little bit, re-dye the edges. With the other pieces, the process is mostly the same, only on the jar you want to glue on the teeth first before you sew completely around the edge. For the nose you want to moisten it completely and then bend the lashes to a more nose looking part and start sewing it on. Step by step you want to cut these holes and then sew it to make sure it always fits perfectly. Put temporarily all the pieces together to give yourself an estimation of how it will look. And from that, you can again work yourself towards the shape of the head that you want. Draw a line on the tusks, punch some sewing holes, position it, cut the holes with the all the way and sew it on. With the ears it's fairly similar. You just want to make sure that you, if you want to do that, mirror the holes perfectly in the skull for sewing. For the jawbone, you want to place it on the inside, mark the holes with an awl, punch those holes or cut it, and get in some screws with washer and screw nut. If you want to attach the boar to your shoulder, I recommend an attachment system like this with a male and female piece. And it's like all the other pieces, you put it in position, mark the holes, punch the holes and put in some rivets with it. I also added a small piece of fur in between. And that's it. It's really a lot of messy, annoying sewing, but it came out really nice in the end. If you want to as a shoulder armor, I recommend using another strap to attach it easier to your arm, so it will hold more stable. Also later on I decided to give it a nose piercing as well. I hope you enjoyed the video. Check out the others I got, check out my patterns, and see you guys next time. Have a great day!